Now that we've outlined our basic method, let's go ahead and go through 4 more examples following that basic method. Our first one here is this sentence: the election is not finished unless the last vote has been counted. So we have 2 words that are all capitals. So we're going to symbolize one simple statement in our translation with an E. That'll be the election is finished. And we're going to symbolize the other simple statement with a C. That'll be the last vote has been counted. So now we'll highlight our logical form words. Not is a logical form word, and unless is a logical form word. And then we'll introduce our simple statement letter logical form word hybrid as follows. So not E unless C. Now you'll notice that I've moved the not to in front of the E. I've done that because the not is embedded in this simple statement and it modifies the verb for that simple statement, so it's likely to apply to that simple statement. Now I'll introduce the logical connectives that are correlated with these logical form words, and so I get tilde E wedge C. So now I want to make sure that I don't have to introduce parentheses to disambiguate the scope of the connectives. So if I did, I would put the parentheses around the disjunction, and it would be not the entire disjunction, E or C. However, when I looked at this, remember, I said that not is embedded in this simple statement, and it's right next to the verb for the simple statement, so it seems to be denying that the election is finished. So not E seems to be tilde E. That seems to be the scope of our tilde. The unless is embedded in between the 2 simple statements, and so our wedge or our disjunction seems to be a disjunction between not E as one disjunct and C as the other disjunct. So we don't have to introduce any parentheses to disambiguate things. Let's take a look at our next example. Being obese is equivalent to having a body mass index of 31 or higher. So now we've got 3 words that are all capital letters. O for being obese, B for having a body mass index of 31, and H for having a body mass index higher than 31. So when we highlight our logical form words, we're going to have is equivalent to as one of our logical form words and or as the other. So now we want to introduce our capitalized letters for the simple statements, keeping our logical form words and having that English simple statement letter hybrid. O is equivalent to B or H. Next, we're going to introduce the logical connectives that correspond to those logical form words or phrases. Is equivalent to, it corresponds to the triple bar. It's a biconditional. Or corresponds to the wedge. It's a disjunction. So we'll introduce those logical connectives as follows. So now we have O, triple bar, B, wedge, H. Here we're going to have to disambiguate the scope. We're going to have to decide whether or not this triple bar is a biconditional, having this is one of its simple statements and this is the other, or if it's a biconditional having this as one of its simple statements and the entire disjunction as its other simple statement. So here we want to look at the logical structure of the sentence. So this sentence tells us that being obese is being equated with everything that follows. So O will definitely be one of the things in the biconditional. The other thing in the biconditional seems to be the disjunction. Everything that follows is equivalent to. So we can introduce parentheses as follows. O, triple bar, parentheses, B wedge H. So this says being obese is equivalent to either having a body mass index of 31 or having a body mass index higher than 31. And that seems to capture our original sentence. Let's take a look at our third example. Neither Jaguar nor Porsche make lawnmowers. So Jaguar is all capital, Porsche is all capital. So we know we've got two simple statements. One will be symbolized with J, one will be symbolized with P. They're simple affirmative statements, so Jaguar makes lawnmowers, Porsche makes lawnmowers are our two simple affirmative statements. That means that neither nor are our logical form words, so we'll highlight those. And now we're going to want to introduce our logical form word simple statement letter hybrid, neither J nor P. So now we want to introduce the logical connectives that correspond to neither nor. So neither nor tells us that this statement asserts that it's neither the case that Jaguar makes lawnmowers, nor is it the case that Porsche makes lawnmowers. So we're going to have a negation. That'll introduce a tilde. Nor is a negated version of or, so we're going to introduce the wedge as well. And that'll give us our logical connectives as follows: tilde, J, wedge, P. Now we have to decide what the scope of the tilde is. Is it J or is it the disjunction? So again, this statement says it's not the case that Jaguar makes lawnmowers, nor is it the case that Porsche makes lawnmowers. So it seems to assert that both of these are false. So the scope of our negation then is going to have to be our whole disjunction. So we'll introduce our parentheses here, and we've got it's not the case that J is true, or P is true, or they're both true. So that seems to capture what our original sentence says. We could have also translated it using the dot, since this sentence says it's not the case that Jaguar makes lawnmowers, it's not the case that Porsche makes lawnmowers. We could have translated it using tilde J and tilde P. These two formulas are logically equivalent to each other. Our last example in this session is number 4 here. You invented the steam turbine only if you're Hero of Alexandria. So we've got invented, all capitalized, and hero, the name of the person, all capitalized. So we're going to have two simple statements, one with an I, one with an H. Our logical form word or phrase then is going to be only if. I, you invented the steam turbine. H, you are Hero of Alexandria. So we'll highlight that logical form word, and we're ready now to introduce our simple statement letter logical form word hybrid, I only if H. Only if is going to introduce a conditional, our horseshoe. Our horseshoes always have our antecedent on the left and our consequent on the right. So we need to decide what the antecedent is and the consequent is. Normally, if is going to immediately precede whatever our antecedent is. However, only if is the one phrase that violates that general rule. So I is true only if H is true tells us that if I is true, H has to be true. I is the antecedent, H is the consequent. So when we introduce our horseshoe here, we're going to keep them in the same order as the original sentence. I will be true only if H is true. So when I is true, H has to be true because it's true only if H is true. Since we only have one logical connective, we don't have to introduce any parentheses to disambiguate the scope of that connective.